Dear students, good afternoon. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 27th August 2020. The first article for discussion is Perils of Prematurely Introduced Literacy. This article is again by Mr. Krishna Kumar. It is about National Education Policy 2020 and Foundational Literacy and Numeracy. I have discussed in the previous classes that foundational literacy and numeracy refers to the early education of making the children to learn alphabets, numericals, etc. What author is trying to say here is the new system which is emphasizing on foundational literacy and numeracy is failing to understand the mind of the student. Let us dwell further into this. The National Education Policy 2020 has proposed for 5 plus 3 plus 4 system. In this, first 2 years of the schooling will be mixed with the 3 years of preschooling. The objective is to prepare child for the school through preschooling. The preschooling consists of reading, writing and numeracy at the basic levels. So the NEP calls this as foundational literacy and numeracy. So, how this is getting practiced in reality, you remember, you recollect your childhood. So, you are supposed to mug A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. Or you have to chant 1, 2, 3, 4. So, that is repeated and imprinted into your mind. Now, the child mind will think, why am I doing this exercise? Is this going to provide any relevance to me? So, author is essentially saying that the foundational numeracy or reading or writing, if it is not connected with the real world understanding of the child in the early ages, it may reflect wrongly on his mind in the long term. You can see many of the elders, they may be afraid of mathematics. It is because of the fear of numeracy in the childhood. Or many of the people may not be interested in reading. It is because of their forced learning of alphabets in the childhood. Like that, he tries to connect between the two. So essentially what author is saying from the previous essay some 10 days back in this is, the early childhood education of the child shall reflect on his mind. It has to be more about observation and reflection of nature, understanding of various natural phenomena happening in the world, rather than forcing him to learn certain alphabets and numericals. And second, he says that national education policy is more concerned about changing era of livelihoods. Today, there is no support system for the wife and husband, that is mother and father. Both of them are going for job. In that context, who has to take care of the child? The preschool as a system is meant to engage the parents productively in their jobs, forgetting about their children. So this kind of change of nature of society is forcing the people towards this preschool education. That is what is his conclusion. Finally, what is the take home point? The early school education has to be focused on natural surroundings of the child, where he can observe and reflect his mind, where he can develop an mental maturity and mindfulness. That is what essence is. The next article is Making Agricultural Market Reforms Successful. What the author is trying to say is, agricultural market reforms or marketing reforms are seeing a back and forth in India. What does that mean? We take one step and we go back and we take other strategy. There is no consistency in strategy. Let us take the examples. In 2016, ENAM was launched. The objective of ENAM is to integrate all the agricultural markets in India. What the central government has asked the states, single point of levy of fees, single point of transactions, single fee or else single license across the states. These are all the things which it spoke about. Only 500 mandis got integrated through ENAM and many thousands are left behind. And 2018, PM Asha was launched. What was promised? Income of the farmers will be increased by aligning the MSP with the cultivation cost. The MSP shall be equivalent to 50% above the cultivation cost. It is also not properly implemented. In this, there are three things. One is government procurement, that is public procurement, deficiency payments, and finally private procurement. So first one is implemented for pulses and oil seeds. The second and third did not implement till date. The second, that is deficiency payments, a pilot project was done in Madhya Pradesh. The third one did not see the light of the day even at the pilot level. In 2018, two model acts are being passed related to agricultural marketing and contract farming. And Centre has urged the states to adopt them and none of the states have adopted it. And PM Kisan has come up in 2019 and it aims to give 6,000 rupees to a farmer household as a capital support. And this is a success because states also have co-opted this. What the states did in this, understand. In Telangana, Raitu Bandhu, they are providing for associated money along over and above this 6,000 rupees, which is acting as a capital substitute or capital support to the farmer. In the midst of COVID-19 crisis in 2020, government again started talking about ENAM. So it means this moving and changing strategy regularly cannot encourage the investors into agriculture. If investors have to be encouraged into agriculture, what is required is consistency in strategy. That is what article talks about. Along with that, agricultural marketing is filled with various kinds of risks, especially fall in prices or logistical constraints, etc. So, providing for a kind of an agricultural marketing insurance and land leasing, liberalizing it, this all can improve the productivity and confidence of the farmers in agriculture. This is the essence of the article. The next article is the uncharted territory of outer space. So this article by Mr. Syed Akbaruddin is about Outer Space Treaty of 1967, which asks the space to be utilized for peaceful purposes. Now one caution, when you read this essay, you feel that there is a lot of information. That is the weakness of this essay. You need to give little information in a simplified form and present it clearly to the reader. But making too much of information in too small space will confuse the reader. So this is a bad way of writing an essay in your examination. So keep the little information, elaborate that information properly. Make some 10 to 12 points and elaborate them properly. That is the way you have to write your general essay. And in that context, by those standards, this essay may not be appropriate. Anyhow, let us see this. Today you know that space industry is growing. It is about to become trillions of dollars of industry soon in next 10 years. In that case, private sector and new entrants are coming up. And you know that SpaceX has launched some commercial space flight recently. UAE also has come with Mars Orbiter mission. So, the legal framework is necessary now. As the number of players are increasing, conflicts are bound to grow, then a rule of law is also required on the space. Outer Space Treaty of 1967 is not suitable for the present day development because in 1967 there were no private players, very few countries were there in the space. As the number of countries are increasing and the space is becoming more and more congested and more commercialized, militarized, we need a new space treaty, space legislation. So Outer Space Treaty, it is not a legislation. We need a kind of a legislation that is binding on all the parties. So let us see certain weaknesses of the Outer Space Treaty. One, it did not envisage or visualize the entry of the private players like SpaceX. Second, there is no dispute settlement mechanism. Let me give you one example. Today, SpaceX wants to send microsatellites to transfer or to give internet from space. And Amazon also has launched another program that is Cooper, I think, or Kuiper. And this SpaceX is Starlink. These two programs are supposed to keep microsatellites in the space and connect us through space. Obviously, some 10,000 plus microsatellites are there in the lower Earth orbit. Don't you think it gets congested? Yes. Obviously, it needs a grievance redressal mechanism. Treaty is silent on collisions and debris. And legal framework is state-centric, placing the responsibility only on the states, not on the international institutions. Next, Outer Space Treaty has definitely failed to prevent arms race in the space. If you can recollect, recently US has created Space Command. India has launched Operation Shakti, where it has dismantled a satellite in the lower Earth orbit. China did that. And Russia recently claimed that it has conducted an obstructive test using a space-based anti-satellite weapon. If we see all these things, the space is expected to get militarized very soon. So, as India's space assets are growing, India has to take an active role in bringing up a space legislation. That is the essence of the article. The next article is a shot in the dark. This is about a statement Pakistan proposed at UN Security Council. In the statement, Pakistan accuses India of various forms and various kinds of terrorism on its soil. It states that Mr. Kulbhushan Jadhav is a mercenary who was involved with terror activities on its soil. And second, Hindutva terror, state-sponsored terror in Jammu and Kashmir. These are all the various things it started talking about. No one are ready to believe it. In spite of that, this article says India need to be careful and develop a strategy to counter this propaganda, mispropaganda of Pakistan. Next is sobering assessment. This is about recent RBI's annual report on the status of economy. RBI has shown a very, sobering picture about the economy today. What is the situation? The second quarter also economy is expected to shrink. It is expected to continue in the next quarter too. One is there is no consumption demand and urban demand is drastically falling. Services sector is on its knees. Startups are unable to get any encouragement. And if we see all this, there is a chance that the economy is going to have a tailspin. So, what is the way forward? RBI in a way proposes that the fiscal policy shall be made as a weapon to fight this. Because stagflation is the risk for RBI to use the monetary policy. So, stagnation is there in the economy. More than stagnation, it is shrinkage of economy. Along with that, inflation is there. So, monetary policy will be of little use in these circumstances. So, fiscal policy shall be a weapon to the government. But fiscal space is missing. Because of COVID-19, revenues have decreased, expenditure have increased remarkably. The fiscal space has come down. Then, how to solve this issue, how to solve this place, this quagmire is a big problem today. Bringing the internet to everyone. You know what is the objective of BharatNet? It is to connect every village through a high-speed internet connection. So today, as education, healthcare, everything is being delivered through internet. Internet is considered as a right by the Kerala High Court. In 2016, UN General Assembly passed a non-binding resolution saying that internet is a human right. So in this situation, it is the time India has to bridge the digital divide for the collective progress of the society and to remove inequalities. What I am trying to say is, digital divide, digital inequality is a reason for other inequalities in the society, either it is gender inequality or rural-urban inequality, any for that matter. Or the existing inequalities will be exaggerated by the digital divide. 2 days back we saw another article. Digital divide is also a reason for democratic divide. Why I am saying it's a democratic divide? The government will make decisions on the inputs from few people who have got access to internet. It means the urban middle class will be largely reflected in government decision making rather than all the classes and people across India. In that case, from a very narrow base, the government is making the decision. The public opinion is getting narrowly interpreted. That's why I am saying that digital divide is also reason for democratic divide in this country. Supreme Court hits out at center on a loan moratorium scheme. You know, during lockdown, the RBI proposed for loan moratorium scheme. Then what the banks played over here, you can defer your loan payments, but there will be interest imposed onto it. Then a burden will be created. After that, interest on interest will come up. So in this context, the matter went before the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court is asking the position of the central government on this. Next is, CPIM accuses central government of centralization of power. Not just the CPIM, all the opposition political parties are accusing the center of this. So what he says, Mr. Yechuri says is, the GST is supposed to be an example for cooperative federalism, where the states have cooperated with the center to bring in a common tax structure. But today, center is going back on its promise to pay the states the necessary tax, dues. So why? The reason is the center's revenues also have come down. When the GST structure was made, the center has to pay compensation to the states, and it is passed through a parliamentary law. A compensation has to be paid to the states. So today, due to COVID-19, all the states have lost the GST income, and this compensation is the burden of the center, and center has no money. So that's why the GST payments are being delayed, and the states are accusing center of not paying its dues on time. Next is opposition meeting CM's plan to move on JEE and NEET to Supreme Court. So what is this article is all about? Understand carefully. The opposition political parties are coming together to fight the might of the BJP, and they are making a common agenda. Though it appears as a small issue, JEE, NEET, etc., the coming together of the opposition political parties is consolidation of the political landscape of India. So today, it appears that one single party dominant system, which was there before 1967, is coming back. In this context, this particular step is going to be a remarkable thing in the long run. An effective vaccine must be useful against the entire diversity of the virus. In this only one point in this interview, I felt very good. Everyone are talking about herd immunity. What is herd immunity? Many of the people gets infected asymptomatically and they develop antibodies against it. Or much of the population, if they have antibodies, there will be natural barriers created for the spread of the virus. So let's take, if I have antibodies, if someone is infected in my family, I will not become the carrier because already I have the antibodies in me. The virus cannot take control of me. So herd immunity, if it comes in the population, then the spread of this virus can be stopped. That is what is professor is saying over here. US blacklists 24 Chinese firms. You know South China dispute. US has conducted many of the operations for freedom of navigation in South China Sea, and China is also not budging back. In this context, whatever the companies which have developed infrastructure or participated in developing the infrastructure on these Spratly and Paracel Islands, those companies are being put in the blacklist by the United States, and there will be no cooperation or projects or for that matter visa for these people to travel to United States of America. That is the point here.